she never returned. Free diving. Gone horribly wrong. She had done this 1,000 times. The water was calm. The yacht was steady. The students she'd been training were drying off on the deck, laughing, relaxed. And Natalia Molchanova, 53 years old, the most decorated freediver in history, was beneath the surface for one last dive. It wasn't deep, not for her, just 130 feet, but she never came back up. She should have been up in 3 minutes, one of the crew later said. 5 max, but the water stayed still. A call went out to the Spanish Coast Guard. Boats were dispatched. Helicopters scanned the sea from above. A robotic submersible joined the search. For 3 days, they scoured the waters around Formentera and found nothing. No gear, no trace, no body, just silence. It didn't make sense. Natalia wasn't just experienced, she was the best there ever was. She held 41 world records. She could hold her breath for over 9 minutes. She'd gone hundreds of feet deeper than this before. So how could she vanish on a shallow dive? This is the story of the queen of freediving and the day the ocean didn't give her back. The woman who defied time. She wasn't supposed to be here, not breaking records at 50, not diving to depths that made other athletes nervous, but Natalia Molchanova never lived by the script. Born in Soviet Russia in 1962, she started out like many others, in the pool. She trained as a competitive swimmer, fierce and focused. But by her early 20s, she stepped away, not from lack of talent, but to raise a family. She became a mother, 2 kids, a quiet life. She supported her husband's career. She cooked dinners, helped with homework, built a stable home. For 2 decades, the water was in the background, but it never left her. There was always something about water, she later said. It was the one place I could think clearly. Then came a turning point. In her early 40s, newly divorced and looking for a way forward, Natalia picked up a magazine article about freediving. Something clicked. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was instinct. Either way, she signed up for a course. At an age when most people are slowing down, Natalia was just getting started. By 41, she was already breaking Russian national records. At 43, she was on the world stage, diving deeper, swimming farther, and holding her breath longer than anyone expected. In 2005 alone, she set 9 world records. She wasn't just keeping up, she was leading the way. Most women quit competition by 35, said one coach. She was just warming up. Her son, Alexei, followed her into the sport. But even he admitted that what she did wasn't normal. Natalia didn't just dive. She disappeared into another state of mind, one where fear didn't follow. She described freediving as something peaceful, almost spiritual. Underwater, there's no sound, no pressure from the world above, only the rhythm of your body, the silence of the deep, and the slow beat of a heart learning how to let go. Freediving teaches you to live in the moment, she said, because if you're not present, you won't survive. Over the next decade, she shattered 41 world records and earned 23 gold medals. She beat men's times. She held her breath for over 9 minutes. She was even congratulated personally by President Vladimir Putin. But Natalia didn't care much for the fame. What mattered to her was the dive. I don't do it for medals. I do it because it's where I feel like myself. Natalia wasn't chasing trophies. She was chasing freedom. And somehow, the deeper she went, the more alive she became. The machine beneath the surface. They called her the freediving machine, but machines don't feel. Natalia did. She felt the water, the pressure, the silence. She didn't just understand freediving, she became it. To outsiders, she looked superhuman, holding her breath for over 9 minutes, swimming nearly 800 feet underwater in one breath, beating records set by athletes half her age. And she did it all with calm eyes and a soft smile. But to those who knew her, she wasn't cold or distant. She was thoughtful, focused. Her real strength wasn't in her body, it was in her mind. "When I dive," she once said, "I don't think. I become empty. And in that emptiness, I find everything." It sounds poetic, but it was also practical. Freediving isn't just about how long you can hold your breath. It's about staying calm when your body starts to panic. It's about slowing your heart rate, controlling your thoughts, trusting your training. Natalia mastered that. By 2006, she had won team gold at the World Championships. A year later, she beat the top male athlete in static apnea. Then came 2009, 2010, 2011. More records, more depth, more silence. She dove to 328 feet in constant weight, first woman to do it. She pushed variable weight to 416 feet. At 51, she was still setting world records. And in 2013, she swam over 777 feet underwater at the Pool World Championships. It was like she wasn't human, one competitor said. She made the impossible look easy, but it wasn't easy. Natalia trained relentlessly. She studied the science behind every breath. She taught freediving at the university level. She led research into how the body reacts under extreme pressure, and she passed on everything she learned to her students, including her son, Alexei, who would go on to break his own records under her guidance. But while others were chasing medals, Natalia was chasing something deeper. "When I dive, I go inside myself," she said. "I stop being a person, I just exist." That's what made her different. She didn't dive to compete. She dove to connect. With the water, with silence, with the strange peace that only exists when your lungs are empty and the world fades away. And every time she resurfaced, she brought a little of that world back with her. Until the day she didn't. The final dive, August 2nd, 2015. The water was calm, the sky clear. The Pumpkin, a private yacht, rocked gently off the coast of Formentera. Natalia was there to teach, not to break records, not to push limits, just to guide a pair of beginners, Pavel Tio, a Russian businessman, and another guest, through the basics of freediving. They dropped a 65-foot line into the water. One by one, the students took turns. Natalia was patient, careful. She dove with each of them, gave instructions, encouraged them. Then the lesson ended. And she said she wanted one more dive, alone. No one questioned it. Why would they? This was Natalia Molchanova, the greatest freediver alive. She slipped into the water. No fins, no rope, just her body and the deep. She descended to around 130 feet and vanished. "She always came back," one crew member said. "Always." But this time the surface stayed empty. The yacht crew called for help immediately. Boats searched. Helicopters scanned from above. The Spanish Coast Guard deployed underwater drones. Still, nothing. That area was known for sudden currents. Water temperatures dropped fast below the surface, and Natalia was alone. No one to spot her, no one to see if something went wrong. Experts believe it could have been a blackout, or a rogue current, or maybe something deeper. But her son, Alexei, said something else. "The ocean was her sanctuary," he said. "Maybe. This time, it kept her." She wasn't trying to break a record. She wasn't chasing danger. It was a short dive, a simple dive. But in freediving, even the easy dives can turn. And sometimes the sea doesn't give second chances. On that warm August morning, the greatest freediver in the world took one last breath and became part of the deep. The Queen becomes a myth. For 3 days they searched. Boats skimmed the coastline. Divers swept the seafloor. Helicopters scanned the waves. Underwater drones combed the dark. But Natalia was gone. No air bubbles, no equipment, not even a trace of movement below. Nothing. "We expected to find something," a member of the Spanish Coast Guard said. "Anything. A sign, a clue, but the sea gave us silence." On day 3, the authorities made the call. They had to stop. Conditions were growing more dangerous. Time had run out. Natalia's family was informed. The mission had officially shifted from rescue to recovery. Her son, Alexei, didn't argue. He understood what it meant. He understood it better than anyone. because he was a freediver too. He knew that the ocean doesn't make promises. It never has. "She's in the sea now," he said. "That's where she wanted to be." It was a statement not of grief, but of recognition, a quiet surrender, the kind that only someone deeply connected to the water could give. For the freediving world, it felt impossible. Natalia had become a symbol of control, of calm. She taught others how to survive the deep. If she could vanish on a routine dive, it meant the game had changed. But Natalia never saw freediving as a game or a competition. She wasn't chasing records by the time she went missing. She wasn't trying to win anything. She dove for something else, something harder to name. "Freediving," she once said, "is not about the depth. It's about the feeling. When you go down there, it's like the noise of the world fades away." And maybe that's what she was chasing in her final dive: peace. Natalia understood the ocean in a way few others ever will. She didn't fear it. She trusted it. And when she slipped beneath the surface that day, it wasn't with hesitation. It was with intention. She didn't bring a safety diver. She didn't use a fin. She didn't descend on a competition rope. It was just her, the sea, and a depth she'd visited many times before. And maybe that's why she never came back. Not because she failed, but because, in her own quiet way, she let go. Divers say the ocean keeps secrets, that its currents move like thoughts, that it remembers those who surrender to it. And Natalia had always been more than a diver. She had become part of the water. "She disappeared doing the thing she loved," said one of her former students. "But it wasn't an accident. It was a return." She'd once said that deep underwater, she felt like her true self. That diving wasn't escape, it was arrival, a place where the surface didn't matter, where the noise stopped, and she could finally hear her own breath. The freediving world mourned. Tributes poured in, tributes not just to her achievements, but to her presence, her calm, her courage. Photos of her smiling in a golden wetsuit flooded social media. Videos of her dives were replayed, studied, revered. She became a kind of myth, not because she was lost, but because she had given everything to the sea. Her name, Natalia Molchanova, became more than a record holder. It became a symbol, a story, a reminder that even the strongest can be taken, that even the most skilled can vanish, and that sometimes the ocean doesn't return what it claims. The price of going deep. Freediving sounds simple: one breath, no tanks, no noise, just you, the silence, and the water. But under the surface, the rules change. At around 33 feet, the pressure doubles. Air spaces in your body shrink. Your lungs compress. By 66 feet, buoyancy shifts, and your body starts to sink on its own. Past 100 feet, your chest feels tight. Past 200, your mind begins to drift. Natalia knew every inch of that descent. She had studied it, taught it, lived it. She knew how to adjust for pressure, how to equalize, how to move with precision without wasting oxygen. And yet, the risks were always there. At depth, your body isn't the problem, it's your mind, a fellow diver once said. If it slips, even for a second, that's it. Blackouts can happen suddenly. It's called shallow water blackout, a condition where the body runs out of usable oxygen just before resurfacing. You don't feel it coming, you just stop. There's also narcosis, a kind of underwater intoxication caused by pressure. At extreme depths, it fogs the brain. Simple tasks become difficult. Judgment fades. You lose focus. Or worse, you feel invincible. Natalia had trained her whole life to resist these things. Her breath hold record was over 9 minutes. She had reached depths most people can't imagine. But even she wasn't immune. That day in Formentera, the conditions were considered safe. Warm water, good visibility, no storm. But there were strong currents below 100 feet, and Natalia had no safety diver. She had done dives like this before, hundreds of times, and always came back. But the sea is unpredictable. A current can pull you sideways. A drop in temperature can lock up your muscles. A rogue wave or a moment of hypoxia can erase everything you planned for. You train for control, she once said, but down there, you also learn to let go. And maybe that's what happened. No one knows for sure if Natalia blacked out, if she was caught in a current, if something in her body finally gave out. But what we do know is this: she didn't surface. Not after 3 minutes, not after 5, not ever. And that's the cruel truth of freediving. It gives you beauty, peace, silence, but it asks everything in return. Natalia wasn't reckless. She was precise, intelligent, careful. But freediving doesn't reward confidence. It tests humility. And even the most experienced can be humbled. There's a reason freedivers always say, never dive alone. That day, Natalia was alone. And when she let go of her last breath, there was no one there to see her fall. Only the ocean. And the ocean doesn't explain. It only remembers. Echoes in the deep. Natalia left more behind than just records. She left behind a philosophy, a system, a quiet revolution in how freediving was taught and understood, and she passed all of it, every method, every lesson, every belief, into the hands of her son. Alexei Molchanov wasn't just a student, he was her legacy. By the time Natalia disappeared, Alexei was already becoming one of the greatest freedivers in history. He trained with her, learned from her, studied the way she moved, how she breathed, how she controlled not just her body, but her mind. Now, he carries her work forward. Through the Molchanova School of Freediving, Alexei trains thousands of divers every year. He's broken records, won championships, and built a freediving empire based not on fame, but on safety, awareness, and control. She didn't just want to go deeper, Alexei said. She wanted to make freediving safer for everyone. Together, they designed training methods rooted in science and calm discipline. Natalia's curriculum is still used around the world. It teaches not just technique, but presence. Because to Natalia, freediving wasn't just about lungs or limits. It was about understanding yourself in stillness. The deeper you go, she once said, the more you meet yourself. That idea stayed with people. Her students remember how she made them feel safe, even in silence. How she'd place a hand on their back before a dive and whisper, "Slow down, trust the water." She didn't teach from fear, she taught from love, for the sea, for the human mind, for what happens when the two connect. Even now, years after her disappearance, Natalia's name is spoken with reverence. There are dives named after her, records broken in her honor, events that begin with a moment of silence for the Queen. In many ways, she's still here. In the calm before a dive, in the long exhale that signals surrender, in the blue silence where thoughts disappear. Her students keep diving, her son keeps teaching, and her story keeps echoing. Through every breath held a little longer, every mind calmed a little deeper. She didn't die afraid, one diver said. She died doing the thing that gave her peace, and maybe that's the point. Natalia didn't just master the sport, she redefined it. She showed the world that going deep isn't about chasing danger, it's about finding stillness. And in doing so, she left a ripple that will never stop moving. The dual nature of freediving. On the surface, freediving looks peaceful. No engines, no bubbles, just quiet movement beneath the waves. But beneath that calm is a sharp edge, a paradox. Freediving is one of the most meditative sports on Earth, but it's also one of the most dangerous. And Natalia knew both sides. It's about control and surrender, she once said, both at the same time. To go deeper, you have to give in, relax, let your heart slow, let your mind quiet. But too much surrender, and you don't come back. That's the danger. What makes freediving beautiful is exactly what makes it deadly. The feeling of weightlessness, the quiet, the soft blue light. These things lure you in, but so do the deeper instincts, the need to go further, stay longer, test yourself. Natalia had mastered the physical side. She could hold her breath longer than anyone, move with perfect form, equalize with grace. But the sea doesn't test your strength, it tests your judgment. And on that final dive, Natalia was alone. No fins, no line, no safety diver watching from above. She had done it before, many times. But the ocean isn't a routine, it's a living force. Every dive is different, she said, even when it feels the same. And maybe this dive felt normal. Maybe she slipped into the rhythm, trusted the water, trusted herself. But somewhere below, something shifted. Maybe a current pulled her off course. Maybe her oxygen ran out faster than expected. Maybe she felt a little too at peace and didn't fight to rise. We'll never know. What we do know is this. Freediving is a sport built on thin margins. There's no backup tank, no second breath, just one shot. And Natalia took that shot every time, not out of arrogance, but out of love. When I dive, she said, I feel like I'm part of something bigger. The water doesn't ask who you are, it just accepts you. But it also asks for respect. That's why her legacy matters. Because she didn't just dive, she taught, she trained, she built a culture of awareness. Freediving will always carry risk. But because of Natalia, more people understand how to respect that risk. And maybe that's the real balance. Not just going deeper, but knowing when to come back. The final breath. It was supposed to be a simple dive, a quiet moment off the coast of Spain. Warm water, clear skies, a routine lesson followed by one last descent. But Natalia never resurfaced. And that moment, so sudden, so silent, left the freediving world with a hole that's never truly healed. She wasn't just a champion, she was a teacher, a mother, a guide, and now she's a story. She became part of the sea, Alexei said, and the sea doesn't give back what it wants to keep. That idea, that she chose peace over return, has stayed with everyone who's ever held a breath in her name. Freediving didn't kill Natalia Molchanova, it revealed her. In that final dive, she let go not just of air, but of everything holding her to the surface. And whether by choice or by fate, she stayed. Her story is told now in hushed tones, in the way instructors teach new divers to always have a buddy, in the silence before a world record attempt, in the reverence that follows her name. Because Natalia wasn't just the best, she was the heart of the sport. When she dove, it was like watching someone disappear into a prayer, one diver said. You didn't clap, you just watched. And now, we remember. Her golden wetsuit, her calm voice, her breath, held not in fear but in grace. Every freediver who descends today does so in her shadow and in her light. She is the silence below, the calm before the storm, the stillness that waits at depth. She is, and always will be, the queen of the deep. And somewhere out there, beneath the waves she loved, Natalia still floats, forever home. If this story moved you, consider subscribing. We share real and powerful diving stories just like this one. Hit the like button, leave a comment, and make sure to subscribe.